Research shows that young boys are struggling in today's society. Let's listen to some stats. Girls are more likely to graduate high school on time. Girls have higher GPAs and outnumber men in college enrollment. And the number of men in the labor force is declining while women climb.
Even former President Barack Obama discussed this topic with his wife, Michelle, on her podcast. Take a look.
I do think that there are some particular issues with boys that as a society we're not addressing. I do think as a society we have to create more structures for boys and men to have guidance, rituals, frameworks, encouragement, to be able to meet a wide range of role models so that whatever their inclinations, they can see a path to success that isn't just sports or money.
Yes. I'm like, yes. Okay, we have two experts here to help us weigh in. Niobe Way, professor of developmental psychology at NYU and author of Rebels with the Cause, and Carlos Whitaker, podcaster and author of Reconnected.
And like us, they are both parents of sons. Good morning, guys. We are so excited to have this conversation.
Yes,
We've been buzzing about it all morning. So why don't we start, Professor, I'll start with you and just kind of set the table. We put some of the stats forward there, but you've been studying this for decades.
Yeah.
So do you believe that boys are in crisis, and what does that look like?
Okay, before I answer your question, I'm going to say that my son today is turning 26.
Oh.
Happy birthday, Raphael.
Yes.
Happy birthday, Raphael.
Yeah.
There he is.
So there he is. Okay, so to answer your question, so I've been listening to young people for 40 years, and the story is mostly about boys and young men because we're not listening to them, and they've been telling us a story that we're not listening that answers your question. And the question, what they've been teaching us for 4 decades, right, and with these big studies that I do around the world, is that what they want most of all, which I'll tell you what it is in a second, they're not getting, and they're living in a society that they're having a hard time finding what they want. And basically, to make it very simple, the message I've heard from thousands of boys since 1987 is that what they most want is each other, is male friendships, deep, meaningful friendships, friendships in which they can share their thoughts and feelings without being laughed at, friends that they can also have fun with and hang out with, obviously. But that sense of, we know that we're social animals,
yes.
right? Yeah. They need those connections. They need those connections. And if they don't get them, they suffer. And so most of the suffering, evidence of the suffering we see now is a product, actually, of poor social health among boys in particular, boys and young men.
Yeah.
And then they grow up to also struggle, because they still don't get that. So the idea of really focusing on relationships and friendships
yes.
is really what we need to start doing to try to address, and we can talk about later, how it relates to the job market,
exactly.
because it does.
Well, and Carlos, let's talk about what messages they're also receiving and also how this applies in your own home.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm a Black Latino man in America, raising an adopted Korean son.
Okay.
So we've got all sorts of dynamics happening there, right? My culture is, the men are very strong and stoic and almost numb. And so what I've had to do in my home is, from an early age with my son Losiah, is lean into him and show him that empathy is a superpower. That feelings are okay. I have raised him to where I hug him in public, I kiss him, I let him know that this is something that's normal. And so I've actually seen him reciprocate these things. We were on a trip to Beijing, the first time he was in a country where people looked more like him than like me.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, we were walking down the road one day, and he could tell that nobody was paying attention to me. I think I was trying to hail a cab or something. And he's like, "Hey, Dad," and he grabbed my hand, and he said, "Let me do it for you so that people know you belong." And so those are the sorts of things that I think are important for us to show. It's okay for young men to feel more and to lean into some of those things.
And Professor, these relationships among boys do change with time. You notice when they're very young, they're very playful with each other, they're tight, and then something seems to happen when they hit adolescence.
Yeah, so thank you for asking that question, because it's such an important part. So I'm a developmental psychologist, which means I study the same boys over time.
Yeah,
so from the 12, 13, 14, 15. So I see the same kid, what he sounds like at 13 and what he sounds like at 18, and there's a story in there. And I quickly want to say, because I don't want to forget, that what Carlos is talking about is the soft skills that boys naturally have, and we need to nourish them.
Yes.
We'll get back to that.
Yes.
So what happens in adolescence, and now again, this is thousands of kids around the world. We do studies in China as well, is that when you listen to a 12, and all those parents of 12 and 13-year-olds know that, they're oftentimes very expressive. They say what they think. They, especially in a safe space, they will offer tremendous insights into friendships. They are incredibly emotionally and relationally intelligent.
Yes.
I mean, they see the nuances. They see their mom when she's faking an emotion.
Yes.
They see that she's faking an emotion. I mean, all those beautiful things. Then as you hear them grow up, and the pressures for manhood, but this is the most strangest thing in our culture, the pressures for maturity, maturity too, makes them basically disconnect from what Carlos was referring to is the soft skills.
Yeah.
And so they disconnect from the soft skills, and then what happens is they struggle with friendships. So they start to have what I call a crisis of connection, and they start to not have the friendships that they want. They're starving for them. Yes. They're yearning for them.
And by the way, we haven't even spoken about social media and its implications.
Exactly.
We have a lot more to talk about. Luckily, Professor Way and Carlos are going to stick around.
Talk about how parents and other role models can now help young boys with these problems. We're coming right back.
And then we can talk about We are back with Professor of Developmental Psychology at NYU, Niobe Way, and podcaster and speaker Carlos Whitaker.
And we're talking about the importance of raising boys and setting them up for success in a society not always built to cater to their developmental needs. So, Carlos, one of the big things we talk about a lot is social media and the impact that has on all kids. But in this case, particularly on boys, how does that impact some of these outcomes we're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things that I've done is I did a 2-month screen cleanse. Like, I didn't look at a single Apple Watch, iPhone, nothing for 2 months. I lived with Amish, I lived with monks.
And you wrote about it,
And I wrote about it in my book, Reconnected. And when I came back, what I realized is the connection. I called it Reconnected because so many people are like, how was it when you disconnected? I was like, no, I actually reconnected. Reconnected with all of these things that I think we're hopefully teaching our kids. And one of the things I like to say is our kids learn mostly not by what we teach them, but what they catch. Parenting is caught, not taught. And so with my son, I want to let him see that I've got male friends, I've got friends that I pour my heart out to, and it is something that, again, as a 19-year-old, I'm watching him his first year of college kind of go through this thing of like, I need closer friends than just like, hey, let's play video games. Let's go do this. Like, what does it look like as a young man to actually have emotionally healthy relationships? It's so important.
Let's talk about, we talked about sort of what is expected of boys and then in turn men. What are some solutions to this?
Okay, so again, I'm going to draw from what I learned from boys on young men. So one of the things that, the major thing that's getting in the way is something that we call boy culture, which is a sort of thinking that boys are stereotypes when they're not stereotypes. They're real people with hard and soft skills, with needs for intimate friendships. And so what they really need in terms of moving towards a solution is that we value, first of all, friendships, right? We start to be a culture that values friendships, but also for boys, and especially emotionally intimate friendships and the kind of friendships they could really share. And the other thing, this is a big one for us because it relates to all of us, not just boys. We need to value hard and soft skills, hard and soft professions, referencing Obama's thing. We need to value nursing and teaching as well as working at a bank. And so the idea is if we start to a boy culture that only privileges our hard side and not our soft side, we need to value hard professions and soft professions. And once we do that, what's going to inevitably happen is you're going to see boys and young men start to thrive. Because then they have, as you said, Jenna, they have many options then. Just like girls oftentimes have many options in terms of hard professions and soft professions.
God, I mean, we honestly could continue to talk about this all day.
This is an all-day, all-night conversation.
But you guys, thank you so much for this.
To get Professor Way's book, Rebels with a Cause, and Carlos's book, Reconnected, you can just head to today.com/books. A really important conversation. Thanks so much.
Thank you. You guys, thanks for watching.
I know. Come join us for all the fun every weekday on NBC.
And don't forget to take us along when you're on the go.
Follow the Today with Jenna and Sheinelle podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.